The manner Caitlin Clark plays is not to Stephanie White's taste. The Indiana Fever fell down, 82-61. The worst aspect of it all is that it happened on a day when camp was in session. What if Caitlin Clark is being held back by the very system that was supposed to help her? Stephanie White's views on Caitlin Clark is not a basketball player. Fans' fears are being revealed by new breakdowns and old footage. Caitlin's style isn't simply in conflict with Coach Stephanie White's approach. It's being stifled. The indicators are evident. From forcing her off the ball to benching momentum, let Caitlin take the lead by leaving a comment below if you think she deserves it. Let's examine what's actually taking place. There is a circumstance where a coach and a player both have philosophically different perspectives on basketball. At the center of this escalating dispute is a straightforward yet significant issue. Caitlin Clark and Stephanie White had different perspectives on the game. The motion offense, in which the ball goes continuously, is the cornerstone of Stephanie White's coaching philosophy. No one controls possession, and every player touches it. Sounds good, theoretically, but practically the approach isn't appropriate for a facilitator and scorer of Caitlin Clark's generation. This has happened to us previously. The Mavs simply play differently when Luka isn't playing. That ball is moving when he's not on the ground. It's popping. There are several participants participating in the activity. Blah, blah, blah. Old statements. That showed Stephanie White criticizing Luka. Donut's excessive usage style and asserting that better ball movement resulted from his absence have surfaced. Now, the same reasoning is being applied against Caitlin, implying that the Fever do better when she does not hold the ball. However, everybody who watches the games knows that's simply untrue. She becomes nothing more than a decoy when Clark is off the ball, observing the crime as it spreads among other people while standing in the corner. She was occupied with being utilized while standing in that nook. Screening and cutting away here, screening and cutting away there, and serving as a decoy here and being used as a decoy there. She occasionally goes several possessions without making contact with the ball. She also participated in the second quarter of play. She didn't play for only a minute or two. She performed in most 5 minutes and 45 seconds into the second quarter. Only made 1 3-point attempt and 2 shots. Caitlin, by the way, had no turnovers. She played almost 6 minutes and a quarter at one point and made only 2 shots. Not just terrible, either plan. Her strengths are disrespected. Wit. The ball in her hands, Caitlin flourishes. She became the most talked about prospect in years because of her exceptional court vision, pull-up range, and tempo control. As for Kane, it would take Clark several summers to straighten her shot and play the way Stephanie White does. Several summaries. However, White's system is making her repress that identity in order to conform to a mold that was never intended. For her, she needs to adopt a whole new basketball mindset. As if it were a Caitlin Clark was given a 5-year job to shape her into the person Stephanie White desires. It will require roughly 5 off seasons. There will be 4 or 5 off seasons. Some even contend that Caitlin would require 4 or 5 off seasons to totally transform her movement, mechanics, and style in order to play Stephanie's approach, attitude in an attempt to change who she is. For what purpose? To support an ideology that is already failing the group. It goes beyond a coaching dispute. It is a clash of creativity. And at the moment, it's the celebrity is paying the price. In the third, Caleb scores 3 points. In the fourth, she scores 2 points. Folks, that's all she wrote. This team has absolutely no offensive identity. You can view the results without delving into detailed statistics or previous interviews. Issue. The whole story is told by the games themselves. It's not pretty either. Consider the latest game between the Fever and the Valkyrie. The ball and the pace are being pushed by Caitlin Clark. Oh, Natasha gets the lead pass. Howard. Good. Caitlin Clark, age 3. Natasha Howard takes the lead. Good. Midi is pulled up by Caitlin Clark. The tone was set by Caitlin Clark's confrontational appearance. She drove the tempo, made clean passes, made a three-pointer, and made a mid-range jumper. With 3 minutes and 30 seconds remaining in the first quarter, the Indiana Fever surged out to a 20-11 lead. Although all the indicators were positive, the speed was perhaps a little too quick for the coach. Coach found the speed to be a bit too fast. What then did she need to do? Oh no. Indiana surged to a 20-11 lead in a matter of minutes. It had electric momentum, Coach. We're playing this way in 2011. Why should we switch things up? Coach, I was just wondering. Therefore, this is my system, and my system operates. Stephanie White, however, slammed the brakes rather than riding that wave. She reduced the speed, drew Caitlin away from the-ball, and switched to a grinded-out motion style for the offense. Came next. The Golden State Valkyrie went on a 3-0-1-2 run over the next 13 minutes with 3:30 remaining. The Indiana Fever were unable to score a single point per game minute for the following 13 minutes. With 5 points in less than 5 minutes, Caitlin Clark starts the game off quickly. Over the next 13 minutes, the Fever were outscored 32-2. The game quickly shifted. Caitlin's second quarter performance played for almost 6 minutes with just 2 shots. She was too occupied standing in that corner, being used as a decoy here and there, screening and cutting away here and there. And so there were no turnovers, foul problems, or touches, while others, like Kelsey Mitchell, dominated possessions. She served as a screener, a decoy, and a floor spacer. However, everything changed when Caitlin was given permission to be herself once more. She pulls on her backpack. "Come on, gang," she urges. "Let's go get returning to this game." She makes a three-pointer. She approaches the rack. Suddenly, the number is 5,550. 133 runs are scored by the Indiana Fever. 3 minutes remaining in the third quarter. 5,550. Clark spearheaded a 13-3 run almost by herself after regaining possession of the ball. In one quarter, she dropped 4 assists, attacked the rim, and made a long 3. Caitlin was being her usual self, creating for teammates, forcing double teams and accelerating the pace. The Valkyrie then go on a 32-12 run. In the final 13 minutes of the first half, the Valkyrie then go on a 25-11 run in the final 13 minutes of the second half to end the match. After a strong comeback, the Fever reduced the margin to 5. However, just when it appeared that they were going to seize control, Clark was shoved or removed off the ball once more. The attack paused. The Valkyrie stepped in. For the remainder of the game, Indiana was outscored 25-1. Coach, we're playing this way in 2011. Why should we switch things up? Coach, I was just wondering. Therefore, this is my system, and my system operates. There was no coincidence here. There is a pattern. The Fever competes each time Caitlin gets her way. They fall apart each time the system takes control. But, as if she's the issue, she keeps losing her rhythm and roll in game after game. She isn't, though. The video is truthful. The figures are honest. I want to get right in because, well, I agree. Okay, it was a poor effort. Half the time, it appeared as though they were inexperienced. There was no focus. There was no defense. There was no movement in the offense. Overall, the game was poor. They're holding Caitlin Clark back. Nor by supporters, nor by exhaustion, but by a system that won't let her take the lead. The harm isn't limited to the scoreboard. It's evident in the annoyance, the body language. The entire team's rhythm was shattered. I don't know why Stephanie White was fired. I apologize. Christy, much of that was due to the fact that, more than anything else, philosophy made us all dislike Christy's sides. Once the bold leader, Caitlin Clark, appears uncertain and disengaged after receiving the green light. On the court, she occasionally stands in the corner, avoids eye contact, or clearly reacts to perplexing substitutions. Following that, you bring on Aaron McDonald, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, 2 point guards, and a shooting guard who takes care of the ball and relieves. The starting point guard of some of the strain. Her once defining spark is typically flickering not because she's lost it, but rather because the system prevents her from using it. Stephanie White has criticized the players for their poor performance and lack of effort. However, what? Regarding responsibility from the sidelines, we give the ball to the other team when we take it away from our finest players. The other team's strategy is to take the ball away from Clark. Our strategy shouldn't be that. That shouldn't be our strategy. Supporters observed as the coach continued to use a lineup that was obviously ineffective, making Caitlin and Ari McDonald share the floor without any chemistry, rhythm, or output. The games in which Caitlin Clark has played have been the greatest. For this team, does it have a history of motion offenses? Has it been following CC's instructions? Okay, now go ahead and respond. Oh, I'm doing it the CC way. Interesting, huh? It's funny that you say that. I didn't anticipate that. All right? The worst this team has looked, with Caitlin Clark healthy, has been using either Caitlin Clark's method or the motion offense. The offense of motion. The motion offense. Interesting, huh? Lexi Hall and other defensive assets were benched. All-star setups, clever inbound tactics were disregarded. Rather, we witnessed dubious substitutions, undersized games, and a coach who was obstinately devoted to a system that was collapsing in real time. Caitlin's minutes were limited, even after she returned after missing time, and the Fever lost its momentum each time she was dragged. The most telling instance, now, to be honest, I do believe they would have won this game if Caitlin hadn't been on restricted minutes. That change in momentum was significant. Under Clark's guidance, Indiana had reduced a double-digit deficit to 5 points. But as soon as she was removed, the lead grew again. This has nothing to do with developing pains. This has to do with coaching choices that actively hurt your best player. Additionally, the players are also affected. No distinct strategy or aggressive identity. There aren't even the simple things, like pick and roll with Caitlin and Aaliyah Boston. Lack of concentration and ignorance of the strategy. How would you characterize what you observed outside? Due to a strict, antiquated system, everything that made this squad intriguing early in the season has vanished. Fans are witnessing it. It's probably felt in the locker room. Additionally, Caitlin is making every effort, but there's only so much you can do when your voice is muted by your own system. The team runs the risk of losing not only games but also the cohesion, trust, and once-in-a-generation momentum that Caitlin Clark brought to the league if something doesn't change quickly. We give the ball to the other team when we take it away from our finest players. The other team's strategy is to take the ball away from Clark. Our strategy shouldn't be that. We shouldn't use that as our strategy. There is more to Caitlin Clark than just another rookie. She is a once-in-a-generation athlete who is revolutionizing women's basketball. She's inspiring a new generation of fans, selling out venues and shattering viewership records. However, the system is enclosing her rather than constructing around her. Outdated ideologies, sluggish plans, and dubious rotations. It's not online negative squandering her best years. The Fever fights and flows when Caitlin is holding the ball. They have faith. However, the spark wanes when she is marginalized and treated like a role player. And before it's too late, someone else must take over if the coaching staff is unable to recognize that. Caitlin is the reason this league is growing. Instead of holding her back, it's time to rise with her. Let her lead in the comments if you think she should. And make sure your opinion is heard because celebrities like Caitlin Clarkton visit frequently. And we are unable to afford to see this one fade.